Back now to our Squawk Energy Summit. The question for so many American oil producers is, how can we get the nation's oil out to the global marketplace? John Hess is the CEO of Hess Corporation. Ryan Lance is the chairman and CEO of ConocoPhillips. They're joining us both now, and both of them have made their case to the Obama administration and have met with numerous members of Congress. Of course, our guest host this hour, Senator Heidi Heitkamp, who's been involved and in the middle of this and has a bill of her own. And gentlemen, welcome. Thanks for being with us on set today.
Thank you. Good to be here.
We went over it with Harold Hamm why he thinks that this is important, but John, you're, I think, the #3 producer in the Bakken, and you think it's a very important move, too. You want to add your voice as to why?
I'd be happy to, Becky. Thank you. It's great to be back. At a time when the U.S. is considering removing sanctions on Iranian crude oil exports, we should remove the 40-year-old sanctions on U.S. crude oil exports. Our oil is literally trapped here because of the ban. Inventories of crude oil in the last year have gone from 350 million barrels to 470 million barrels. As a consequence, our oil, as a U.S. producer, gets $5 to $15 a barrel less than we could get if we sold on the open marketplace.
And you say that's directly because of the lack of refining and the lack of the ability
actually,
to
the oil's trapped. We can't export it. And on top of it, we
export refined products, though.
That's
so
right.
I guess if you could refine it
We export 3.5 million barrels a day refined products, gasoline and heating oil. Why don't we export the crude that makes those products? It makes no sense. I don't know any other industry that's treated this way. On top of it, by putting more crude on the open marketplace, you're going to make more energy security. A lot of third-party studies have shown gasoline prices will go down. It's a big impact on the economy, shale. 2 million jobs have been created since the financial crisis because of shale. And on top of it, we invest as an industry in shale $100 billion a year. It's almost 10% of the capital investment in our country per year. So we're the largest producer as a country of oil and natural gas liquids. It's time we start leading like one.
Ryan, I know that this has been an issue that your industry has been pushing for some time. But right now, do you feel like this is actually a moment where something might get done?
Yeah, I feel like with Senator Heitkamp, Senator Murkowski's efforts on the Senate side, Representative Burton on the House side, I think there is some momentum building to address the issue for the very reasons that John talked about. The economics, the reality that today it's a resource-abundant world today, and we have to compete on a global scale. I'm in 26 countries around the world. A lot of our investments coming here to the U.S., and it is a competitive world out there. We want to sell our crude on a global market, just like everybody else sells, because it will help the competitiveness here in the U.S.
Senator, we talked a little bit in the last conversation about how you have people who are lining up in the Senate who are saying, yes, we understand why, but they're maybe not to the point of saying that they'll go along with something. This is a politically sensitive issue. There are a lot of people who don't want to see more oil exported because they don't want to see more oil drilled.
Well, I think that's exactly right. You hit the nail on the head. They'll come up with a whole lot of excuses, but they fundamentally do not want any more production of fossil fuels. And so we have to combat that. But I will tell you that frequently in the Senate, people don't make decisions until they absolutely have to. And since the bill hasn't been on the floor, since we've advanced this amendment twice, one on the Iran sanctions, Lisa and I advanced it, and the second has been on the defense authorization. And we didn't get a vote on either one of those amendments, but it's that opportunity to continue to advance the bill. And quite frankly, I think we have enough people who understand the economics of this, that if we're voting straight up economics, we win.
Right. But you just pointed out that these have been riders in the past. Is that because it's so politically sensitive that you can't even run this by itself?
No, I don't think that's true. I think that it's new. It's not like GSE reform. It's not like a lot of the issues tax reform that happen year after year where people kind of build opinion. This is a fairly new issue. Last Congress, we spent a lot of time educating, got great studies saying this isn't going to have an impact on consumer prices. Now we have to continue the next step. But everybody who is ballyhooing this wonderful energy self-sufficiency that we're moving towards should understand that restricting the export will stop the investment and will curtail our self-sufficiency.
Have you had a conversation?
Those are conflicting
Have you ever had
ideas.
a conversation with President Obama directly about this? Since this could be solved with an executive order.
I have had a conversation.
And he says to you what?
Well, I'm not gonna. I mean, these are conversations I frequently don't comment on. But you know, I will tell you, he understands. He's in that category of understanding. I think that his State Department understands how significant this could be to soft power. I think his Energy Department understands that this is bad economics.
But
and
they
bad
don't.
for the
He still
resource.
doesn't want to sign it.
Well, I think everybody wants, kumbaya. Everybody wants to get together and say, we're going to make a bipartisan decision to do this. And so, obviously, I can't speak for the administration, but I will tell you at the highest level, they understand that this policy
John,
is
if we don't export, will the price of oil keep going down? Because we seem to be in a situation where you producers can't stop producing. Rig counts are going down, but weekly production is almost at a 40-year high.
Actually, Brian, let's give some context for that. It's a good point. A year ago, U.S. shale production was increasing 100,000 barrels a day per month. Right now, it's 0 barrels a day per month. So you're looking at a lag number. When you look forward, our production is actually flattening. And some people actually say our production could be down by December.
Still 9.4 million
tying it to
barrels
exports,
a day.
I don't know if that's an accurate perception for really doing it. I mean, if you talk to ExxonMobil, Rex Tillerson told me the reason he's doing it is because oil prices are down. Ryan, I would suggest that you and John probably look at the same thing. The reason that you cut back on capital expenditures was not because of the export of oil that you knew was banned, but because prices came down.
Yeah, exactly. But we're an industry that spends most of our cash flow back into the business. So I think the point we would make is the opposite point, that if you can sell U.S. crude at a global price and eliminate that artificial differential that exists between global prices and U.S. prices for crude, it will increase the cash flow for companies like mine, companies like John's, and reinvestment will go back into the business, which will drive more production down the road.
Shale has been disproportionately hit in the oil price crash, and I think that's the real point. Across the industry, investment for finding, developing oil and gas across the world has gone from $700 billion last year to $500 billion
But that's because
this year.
shale is more expensive to get out of the ground.
Shale costs actually have come down quite a bit. Ryan's company, our own, Harold's, we've been able to take the cost of drilling a Bakken well because of American innovation and American workers from $13 million a well to less than $7 million.
Yes, but the land costs have gone up.
No, actually, that's not right.
That is right. I've been there. I've talked to the guys that are producing this stuff.
That's before oil prices went down. There's a correlation in land price as oil prices go down.
But you're talking about the price. You're talking about over a long period of time. I was talking about not year over year. I was talking about over the last 10 years.
Yeah, but I'm looking forward and looking where we are now and the impact of this ban and the way it's crippling U.S. producers disproportionately to producers against versus the rest of the world. The real point here is we want to be able to put America on the same footing because shale has been disproportionately impacted because of the oil price ban.
There's a couple extra points. Number one, the decline curve in shale wells is fairly steep. And so, as you see production coming online, it'll come offline, and you're going to see a sharper decline in production. The other point is commercial land values have gone down in North Dakota pretty dramatically since the oil prices have come down.
And Becky,
North Dakota went from 1.2 thousand barrels a day to 1.2 million barrels a day in a decade.
Right, and a lot of that high inflationary land value was related to old leases that needed to be perfected, so there was a rush to drill. Now we're at a situation where production and drilling can be more stabilized over the long term, and so that big rush is what caused land prices to go up.
And I would add, I was at OPEC just 3 weeks ago talking to them about the unconventional revolution, and the message is it's here to stay. Because you talk about the cost to develop the unconventionals might be higher, but the core area of these unconventionals, you go to the Eagle Ford, you go to the Permian, you go to the Bakken, will compete on a cost of supply basis with some of the best resources around the world. So unconventional oil is not going away, even despite the fact that the price is down to $60.
How did that message go over with
Well, it was interesting because I got invited back, and I was there 3 years ago to tell them about the unconventional revolution. I said something provocative, that the U.S. would surpass Saudi Arabia in the next 10 years in production. I got laughed off the stage. So I got invited back this year to say, well, how's that going? And to tell them, it is going, and you're not going to knock it down because it is here to stay. The innovation, the technology, as John describes, taking the costs out of the cost supply that we have as a result of the lower prices has made us more effective and more efficient. And that's going to continue.
What's the reaction you got back, or maybe heard once you got off the stage? Because that's been a huge frustration, I'm sure, to the OPEC nations.
They recognize that they missed it. They recognize that they weren't prepared as an organization to deal with the extra production. And now, to I think Harold's point and to John's point earlier, this export ban, this restriction on getting U.S. crude into the global marketplace is the next big thing that they don't understand. But we have to get it out there to increase the investment back in here.
John, until the beginning of this year, Texas accounted for 23% of all U.S. new job creation over 5 years.
Yes.
It's only 9% of the U.S. population. I've been in North Dakota. If you can drive a truck, you're making $150,000 a year. It's a hell of an economic boom. We've seen jobs lost. I have argued, and people have said that I'm insane for saying this, that the decline in the price of oil is a net negative for the United States. Yes, consumers save money in gas prices. I get that. But data shows, you know what they do when they save money in gas prices? They drive more, and they pay off credit card debt. Okay, so we've seen hundreds of thousands of jobs wiped out. Will we see more job losses at $60 a barrel oil, or is this a stable price? You won't increase production, but you're not you, but the industry won't lay off tens of thousands more.
U.S. rigs in the last 3 months have gone from...
They're cut in half.
Cut in half, exactly. Over the time period of oil prices going down, they've gone from 1,900 rigs running in the country to about 675 today. So it's more than 50%. So there are a lot of job losses associated with it. It's not going to come back so quickly. So I think there's a real concern there as we look forward. I think the real point, Becky, when we're talking about this differential, even though oil prices are down and it's hitting the whole industry, it's hitting the U.S. industry more, that $5 to $15 differential
between
WTI and Brent, the world price for Brent, is going to go a long way if it's in U.S. producers' pockets so they can reinvest, get the recount up, and get jobs up. And that's the biggest argument. It's about our economy and the economy hit.
Because these are middle-class jobs that you can find without necessarily having a 4-year college degree or something beyond that. And there aren't too many places that you
guys talk
find
about,
Yeah, not too many.
Midland, Texas has the highest per capita income in the United States per zip code. Midland is that's the capital, that's the Williston of the Permian Basin.
But you all talked about the GDP being negative in the first quarter. A large part of that was because of the impact of shale.
Okay, while we have you here, though, got to ask, it's a $48 billion deal in your space today on Williams.
That's right.
Do you have a view on that particular deal and also what it means more broadly?
Turn-down deal.
Turn-down deal.
It was an offer.
But what is an offer for Williams, but what it means for the industry that a lot of analysts have been speculating there will be a lot of consolidation in the transportation space, if you will.
Well, the MLP business or transportation business that is master limited partnerships is almost a $700 billion market. It's huge, and it's an engine in the economy. And this is just a sign that that is a pretty vibrant engine. I'm not going to comment on the companies themselves.
Yeah, the only thing I would say, Andrew, is, you know, there's a lot of talk around synergies and putting some of the companies together in our business today. I'm not sure the floodgates have opened on that, but I think we will see some of that over the course of the next 2 years.
So there's going to be we're going to be talking about these deals every other morning.
There will be some of these that roll out, absolutely.
And are the synergies real or not?
I believe they are. Yeah.
John, love your point about the differential between WTI and Brent. That is a huge, very important point too. But gentlemen, thank you both for being here. We really appreciate it.
Great to be back.
Thank you.